Hey guys, it's Jane. I'm back for chapter 2 of my Bookish Life, my new video series, so welcome. Today's video is going to be again in 3 parts. The first part is a show and tell. The second part is a compare and contrast. Clearly I'm missing school even though it is Friday afternoon. And the third part is I'm going to play bingo, so that's all a bit exciting. Let's get into it. Part 1, show and tell. This is a bit exciting. My first ever pair of reading glasses, which I got during the week. It is kind of terrifying how much clearer it makes the small print to read. It's worrisome. And if my second son tells me that they make me look just like my mother, so that's what we all like, I'm sure. Okay, so that's the show. As for tell, I need to tell you about 2 Humble bundles that are available at the moment. For those of you who don't know, Humble Bundle is a organisation that raises money for charity by making available bundles of computer games and also books at a discount price, and some of the money goes to charity through it. So there are 2 bundles that you might be interested in that are available at the moment. The first is a bundle of science fiction and fantasy ebooks from Angry Robot, which is an English imprint. That has a whole bunch of things in it, including The Bullet Catcher's Daughter and The Lives of Tao by Wesley Chu. If that sounds interesting, go and have a look at that. The other one that I need to tell you about is the Image Comics bundle that's available. It includes a million things, including Monstress Volumes 1 and 2. Monstress Volume 2, of course, is one of the books that has been nominated for the BookTube SFF Awards. So if you are wanting to get your hands on that, that may be one way that you can do it. Okay, that was show and tell. Part 2 of my video, compare and contrast. I had my In Real Life book club during the week, and we talked about things that we've been reading. One month we have a shared book that we all read, and the alternate month we just talk about what we've been reading. And as I was talking, I realized that there are 2 books that I've read that have so many interesting points of contact that it'd be useful to talk about them together. So the 2 books I'm talking about are Altered Carbon by Richard Morgan, which has recently been adapted for a Netflix TV show, if you're wondering why that name sounds slightly familiar. And the second one is 6 Wakes by Mur Lafferty, which has recently been shortlisted for a Nebula Award, which is a bit exciting. And before I go any further, I need to say thank you so much to Thomas from SFF180, who sent me a copy of 6 Wakes as a present. He's such a sweetie. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, so compare. These stories have an awful lot in common, actually. They're both science fiction murder mysteries with AIs and religious subplots that are basically wound up in life extension through a combination of cloning and mind sort of recording and uploading into new bodies. So those are all ways in which the 2 stories are different. They are the same. They are at the one and the same time really quite different as well. They have quite distinct tones. I read Altered Carbon before I read 6 Wakes, and it took me a little while to actually get into 6 Wakes. I think because the very beginning of 6 Wakes is this scene where people are waking up from being rebirthed as clones, basically. And I immediately expected it to be the book, a similar story to Altered Carbon, which I'd recently read, but the tones of them are completely different. Altered Carbon is a kind of Blade Runner-esque, kind of noirish sort of, down and dirty thriller, whereas 6 Wakes is much more genteel, and in fact, in lots of ways, it has characteristics of a classic golden age detective story. It's almost like a locked room mystery, like and then there were none or something. You've got this small distinct group of characters and somebody's done the dirty, but we don't know who. So that's one difference. The main difference that really stood out for me is the thinking through how the cloning and mind uploading works. So in 6 Wakes, that they make a point of the fact that you can only upload a mind into its matching body. If you try and upload a mind into a body that's genetically different from the body that it originated in, it would create an insane person. It's just impossible to do. Whereas in Altered Carbon, actually a huge amount of the tension in the story in different ways results in the fact that people get sleeved into different bodies. Our central character has been in so many bodies that he actually doesn't really even, there is no kind of like his own body feeling. He can change into any body and feel at home. People are kind of semi-tortured in different ways in the book by being sleeved into bodies that are, you know, wrong in some sort of sense. Cross-sleeving is a thing that can happen, which is sleeving a male consciousness into a female body or vice versa. And yes, this whole thing of minds and bodies being like different Lego bricks that you can kind of stick together anyway is like a big part of the world building in Altered Carbon, whereas that is a complete no-no in 6 Wakes. We got into a really interesting conversation about the kind of metaphysics of this in my real life book club. For me, the 6 Wakes thinking makes a lot more sense. The idea that your mind is just this discrete part, completely distinct from your body, and that, you know, it's mix and match is just all totally fine, does not really recommend itself to me. It feels to me like there is something about embodiedness that makes us who we are. But I was wondering if anybody else had read one or other of these books and had any thoughts about that. So there you go. That's my discussion starter, in case anybody wants to comment on that down below. But before we finish, we're going to wrap up with a quick game. I saw this board at the beginning of the year at a science fiction versus fantasy bingo board. I've got it from Ellie Warren from Curiosity Killed the Bookworm. And I have gone through what I've read so far, and I am going to tick off which squares I've read, and we'll see what we're up to. So the first science fiction book that I read this year was The Angelus Guns by Max Gladstone. I am actually going to have to put my glasses on here to read this list. And I'm taking that one for the middle square, the center square, Rebellion. It's all about a big rebellion amongst angels, and we all know how that turns out. So that's an interesting story, and that gives me the middle square. Space. I'm taking 6 Wakes by Mur Lafferty, which I've just spoken about. For Asian, I have read The Epic Crush of Genie Lo. And this is a really fun YA story from last year. And it includes the main character from a TV show that I watched religiously as a child, Monkey, which is taken from a Chinese myth, the Journey to the West. Yeah, and yes, so the Monkey King is a main character from The Epic Crush of Genie Lo, and this is a really fun read. For Portal, I have got Cibola Burn by James S.A. Corey. I've got no idea what that title means. Does anybody know what the titles from the Expanse books actually mean? No idea. So Cibola Burn is the 4th in the Expanse trilogy. I don't know that I can say much about it without spoiling some of the earlier stories, but there is a portal at the center of the story. It's not a portal fantasy in the sense that, you know, we travel from the real world out to a different world, but we do travel through like a wormhole portal, so that one counts. So that one for AI, there's a number of books that I've read have AIs in them, but I am choosing Infomocracy by Malka. The AI in Infomocracy is called basically information, and that in itself is kind of this terrifying sort of 1984ish idea, which I love. That was such a good read, by the way, such a good read. If you haven't got around to reading Infomocracy, you owe it to yourself to do that. Fantastic Beasts is the next one I'm ticking off. I'm actually currently reading, so this is a bit of a fudge, but I'm sure I'm going to finish it tonight. I'm currently reading Deep Wizardry by Diane Duane. This is the second in the Young Wizards series, and in this one our 2 young wizards meeting with some wizards who are, you know, there's a whale and a dolphin wizard in it. There's a shark who's talking but not a wizard, but yeah, there are some amazing fantastic beasts in that one, so I think that one counts. For time travel, just this week I read Paper Girls Volume 1 by Brian K. Vaughan with art by Cliff Chiang. I'd heard that I should read Paper Girls, but I didn't realise it was a science fiction story. I just thought it would be like a great like 80s story about young girls who rode their bikes and delivered papers, but it is that. And it's also a science fiction story, and in Volume 1 there is time travel, which is amazing. So there's that. For Undead, I am going to list Altered Carbon. I could have put Altered Carbon in about 8 different spots, but that's what I'm going to go for because I feel like that is the core of what's going on in that story. All these people who, they're not quite immortal, but they just keep coming back from the dead. They're undead. And for Alien Invasion, I've got Waking Gods by Sylvain Neuvel, which is another one of the books that was nominated for the BookTube SFF Awards this year. I just read that one. I have to say, I wasn't that in love with it. In fact, I really didn't like it. I may well have DNF'd it if it hadn't been a nominee. But it certainly is a story about alien invasion, so it clicks off my bingo card. So where does that leave me? Where does that leave me? What am I up to? Yes, as you can see, I have filled in quite a bit of the board, but I do not actually have a 5 in a row yet. So I haven't got bingo. Maybe at the end of March I'll come back and see whether I have got there. Anyway, that's all that I've got for today. I hope you're all well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!